Welcome to 100 Yards of Football. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. If you like the video today, please comment and share it. We got a couple of weeks for the college football season kicks off, and then the NFL kicks off in the first week of September. But today, here on 100 Yards of Football, I'm going to give you my first team offense on the college football side in this 2021 season. So if you like the video today, please comment and share it. I'm Vincent Turner, 100 Yards of Football. So let's start with the first team offense at the quarterback position. I know a lot of people are thinking that Spencer Rattler will be a first team quarterback this season on a lot of All-American teams. Of course, there's no doubt. Then you got JT Daniels at the University of Georgia. But you know what? I'm going to go against the green. My first team quarterback is a young man down there in Alabama by the name of Bryce Young. Roll Tide. The reason I'm selecting Bryce Young is that look what Mac Jones did last year at that position. Mac Jones had over 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns. And then another thing why Bryce Young made my list is the first team quarterback. He's got Bill O'Brien, the offensive coordinator, former head coach of the Houston Texans, and we know what he did with Deshaun Watson. But think about this. Bryce Young, even though he didn't play a lot last year as a true freshman, he's a sophomore, but look what he did when he was in high school at Modern Day. He threw over 4,500 yards his senior year, 52 touchdowns. He's got a career, whereas he's thrown for 13,552 yards and 152 touchdowns. And, man, he's going to be special in that offense under Bill O'Brien and the University of Alabama. Just look at all the stars that came out of that offense last year that got drafted in the first round. Can I say Najee Harris? Can I say Devontae Smith? But when you look at Bryce Young, he puts me in the mind of really a Steve McNair when he was at Alcorn State making things happen, or a Condit Holloway back at the University of Tennessee when I grew up, and then Walter Lewis, a former Alabama quarterback. You put all them skill levels together, and you got Bryce Young, and he's my first team quarterback, Roll Tide, University of Alabama. Now at the running back position, the young man out of Iowa State, Breece Hall. Over 1,500 yards last year rushing. Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. 22 touchdowns. Outstanding football player. Comes from Wichita, Kansas. We all know who's out of Wichita, Kansas. A lot of people are saying the best running back that ever played in the National Football League, Barry Sanders. But think about the tradition at Iowa State that Mr. Hall is probably the best running back that's came out of there. David Montgomery, can you feel me? Troy Davis, can you feel me? Dwayne Crutchfield, can you feel me? That's what came out of Iowa State. That's why Breece Hall is my first team running back. I call him Eric Dickerson with speed. The second guy is at the other running back positions, Isaiah Spitler out of Texas A&M. 1,083 yards last year in the SEC first team. All I got to say is this. His nickname is Bounce. Bounce off tackles. Go back to the Florida game and you know what I'm talking about. He was a man among boys. And then look at the tradition at Texas A&M. He's coming out of backfield that's produced Curtis Dickey, 1980, Johnny Hector, 1982, Bubba Bean, the legendary who won the Heisman Trophy in 57, John David Crow. So my backfield is Bryce Young, quarterback, University of Alabama, Breece Hall, running back, Iowa State, Isaiah Spitler, running back, Texas A&M. Now at the wide receiver position. You know I got to give some love to the University of Arkansas, school I graduated from in 1982, Pig Suey, Hog Nation. Treylon Burks comes in as my first team wide receiver. All I got to say, this young man reminds me, when I was in college from 78 to 81, he reminds me of a young Bobby Duckworth. See, a lot of Arkansas people know about that, maybe in the college world, but Bobby Duckworth was a stallion at 6'5", about 210. You look at Treylon Burks. Last year, 51 catches, 820 yards, 8 touchdowns. But what I like about him, he had 4 games over 100 yards. And to me, he got a little bit of Terrell Owens because he's about 6'3", 225, and he can move. He got a little bit of Keyshawn Johnson, Michael Thomas, who's right now doing this thing with the New Orleans Saints. And then look at the tradition at the wide receiver position at the University of Arkansas. Can I take you back to Donnie Bobo? As I mentioned, Bobby Duckworth. Derek Holloway was a very good player. Greg Childs, Jarius White, and Kobe Hamilton. Treylon Burks is one of my first team wide receivers, Pig Sewell, University of Arkansas. At the second wide receiver position, You know I had to go with the team up in the Midwest, the Ohio State Buckeyes, and my man Chris Avale. Last year, he set out a lot, had a couple of injuries, but I'm looking at his career stats. 110 receptions, over 1,766 yards, 22 touchdowns. But however, when he came back and he was healthy in the national semifinal game against Clemson, he put 6 receptions, 132. That's right, 132 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he was killing Clemson secondary. He was the second coming of Joey Galloway. Terry Glenn, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Chris Avale is my other wide receiver on my team. Now at the tight end position. You know, I broadcast locally out of Metro Atlanta area in my home here in Douglasville, Georgia. And I'll be reminiscent if I don't put Eric Gilbert of the University of Georgia. 35 receptions last year, over 585 yards, 4 touchdowns. When I look at Mr. Gilbert, I saw him playing high school at Marietta High School, and I said when I saw him as a senior, he was a man among boys. Went down to LSU, didn't disappoint me. I'm going to use 2 words by the young man who he reminds me of. Keith Jackson, University of Oklahoma, 1986, 1970, 87 All-American. He's got the skill level like that. Fast, quick, and he can get deep as a tight end. Mr. Gilbert comes in as my tight end on my first team All-American team on the offensive side. Now, let's go to the offensive line. Probably the most important part of having a good offense. I'm going to start at the left tackle there. Mumford, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Just graduated from school this past weekend. To me, he's one of the best linemen that came out of Ohio State. Graded 91.8 as an offensive lineman last year. If he would have came out as a true junior, he would have been a first-round draft pick. But what I like about him, 264 blocking snaps. Only allowed 3 pressures last year. No sacks. Can we say the second coming of John Hicks? Chris Ward and the great Orlando Pace. Mr. Mumford is my left tackle. At the right tackle, I might surprise some people. They're not known for football in the Bluegrass State. But I'm going to go with Darren Kennard, University of Kentucky. What I like about him last year, in 2020, he graded out 91.9 as an offensive tackle. Had a run blocking grade of 89.1. Man, his pass protection is off the chops. And he's representing the University of Kentucky, and he played in the toughest league. So Darren Kennard comes in as my right tackle. The left guard, I'm going to go down in the Southwest Conference back in the day. Now they're member of the Big 12. I'm going with Xavier Newman-Johnson as one of my guards. 6'2", 315 pounds. Nicknamed the Blaster of the Block. He takes you back in Baylor history of a Bill Glass that was an outstanding lineman. Frank Ditka in 1980, that was an outstanding lineman. Mr. Xavier Newman-Johnson is representing Baylor on my first team offense as a guard. At the other guard position, Lord have mercy. You better remember this name. He played at Marshall last year. He was a walk-on. But if he would have came out, he would have been a first-round draft pick. He graded out at 95.0 as a run blocker. He's very excited. His name is Kane Mayton. He's transferring over to Notre Dame, and he's going to be a star over there. And King, when you think about Notre Dame, you think about all the great offensive linemen. Aaron Taylor, 1993. Gary Donato, 1974. Andy Hick, 1988. And Tim Forley, 1979. Mr. Kane Mayton. When he leaves Notre Dame this season, the transfer from Marshall, former walk-on, he's going to go down as one of the best that ever played. And that's right, I'm comparing him to the young man that's doing this thing in Indianapolis, Mr. Quentin Nelson. Now my center position, the Iowa Hawkeyes, Mr. Tyler Limbaum. I've been more than not to put a guy that played offensive lineman for Iowa not on my first team. When you think about Iowa, all you got to think about is Kevin Jones, 1956. Mike Riley, 1963. James Daniels, who's right now, he switched from center playing guard with the Chicago Bears. That's a tradition the Iowa Hawkeyes have. And you know what? Mr. Lindenbaum's nickname is Mr. Pet Bull on the offensive line. So when you look at my first team offense this season here on 100 yards of football, I know there's some surprises. But hey, I did the voting. And I checked with a lot of people on my staff, from Logan Landers to Jeremiah Long to Kevin Jones to Bobby Butler. And this is my list. Let me repeat it again. My first team quarterback is Bryce Young out of the University of Alabama. The running backs, Breece Hall out of Iowa State. And my man Isaiah Spitler out of Texas A&M. The wide receivers, Pig Sue, and my man Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. At other position, Chris Avale of the Ohio State. My left tackle is Thayer Mumphrey, Ohio State. At the right tackle, Derek Kennard, University of Kentucky. One of my guards is Kane Mayton out of Notre Dame. And the other guard, Xavier Newton-Johnson out of Baylor. And my center is Tyler Lindbaum out of the University of Iowa. So if you like the video, please comment and share it. I'm Vincent Turner, 100 Yards Football. I'd like to thank my producer, Mr. Logan Landers. And it's the great band from England, Tears for Fears, one of my favorite songs. Shout, shout, let it all out. This is my first team offense for 2021. I'm your host, Vincent Turner. Enjoy the college football season here on 100 Yards of Football.